day, Providence whispers peace by night. It bleeds silence no prayer can cleanse. A headless body on Jewett Street. A blood-stained car under a flickering streetlight. A woman sealed inside her lover's refrigerator. Or gunfire echoing through a basement bar at dawn. These are not just crime scenes, they are scars, carved deep into a city that pretends to sleep. Now, justice may cage the living, but it can never resurrect the lost. This is Inside Providence's Darkest Black Killers full list and life sentences. Welcome back to Crime Ledger USA, where real crimes meet real justice. Number 1. Troy Ingram. He walked into the wrong apartment and left behind one of Providence's most horrifying crime scenes. In July 2019, the city's quiet streets hid a nightmare that would take years to fully unravel. 40-year-old Mohsin Muhammad, a hardworking Pakistani immigrant, lived alone in a small apartment on Jewett Street. He was kind, soft-spoken, and trusted easily. His killer, 27-year-old Troy Ingram, was a Providence man and former Rhode Island National Guard member. On July 20, their paths crossed in a moment that would end in brutality beyond imagination. According to investigators, Ingram entered Muhammad's apartment believing it was empty. Muhammad confronted him, but instead of reacting with anger, he spoke calmly, even allowing Ingram to use the bathroom and offering him a glass of water. Moments later, that small act of kindness would cost him his life. After leaving the apartment, Ingram armed himself with a shovel. He returned and lured Muhammad toward the doorway. Without warning, he swung the shovel repeatedly, striking Muhammad in the face and skull until he collapsed. Then, in a grotesque final act, Ingram used a knife to decapitate him and partially sever one arm before fleeing into the night. When Muhammad failed to show up for his 7-Eleven shift the next morning, co-workers called the police. Officers arriving at the Jewett Street apartment discovered what one detective later described as a scene of staggering violence. Muhammad's body lay in a pool of blood, his head fully detached, the knife and shovel beside him. Providence police immediately launched a full-scale homicide investigation, using forensic evidence and neighborhood surveillance footage to trace the killer's path. The following day,
I'm Seth Magaziner. In Congress, I'm working to lower writing for healthcare funding so that people can afford to go to the doctor because I work for you.
I want a Caniac combo with extra cane sauce, no slaw, 2 extra toast, and a half sweet tea, half lemonade.
Now that's an order.
investigators located and questioned Ingram. During interrogation, he confessed in detail to the murder and mutilation. DNA testing later confirmed his presence at the scene, matching blood on a discarded shirt to both Ingram and the victim. Detectives also tracked Muhammad's stolen phone to an area where Ingram had fled from officers earlier that day. The case moved quickly through Providence County Superior Court. Ingram chose to forgo a jury, facing a bench trial before Justice Maureen Keogh. The defense argued that Ingram's actions stemmed from untreated mental illness linked to his National Guard service. Prosecutors countered with the brutality of the evidence. Each wound, they said, reflected intent, not instability. In June 2025, Troy Ingram was convicted of first-degree murder and mutilation of a human body. On the 24th of October 2025, he received a mandatory life sentence plus 3 years. The community's reaction was restrained but heavy with grief. Muhammad's family in Pakistan could not reclaim his remains. His faith forbade burial after such defilement. He now rests in an unmarked grave in Rhode Island, far from home, while his 2 sons live with questions no justice can answer. 3 lessons remain. Kindness can disarm evil, but never protect from it. Violence ends one life and scars many. Silence leaves justice unfinished. Another life lost. Another truth documented inside America's enduring ledger of crime. Before we continue, if this case shakes you, press hype, stand with us, break silence, and let justice roar louder than the voices once erased. Number 2, Sean Mann and Isaiah Pinkerton. He wasn't the target, but one wrong turn and one gun turned an ordinary Sunday into a lifetime of loss. It was just after midnight on the 1st of August 2021, when 24-year-old speech pathologist Mia Brophy-Behrman stood beside her parked car on Olney Street in Providence, Rhode Island. She had recently graduated from Northeastern University and was speaking with her boyfriend, Sharon Robinson, when a dark sedan slowed near the curb. Within seconds, gunfire shattered the quiet street, cutting short a life that had only begun to take shape. Investigators would later identify the shooters as 34-year-old Sean Mann and 25-year-old Isaiah Pinkerton. Prosecutors said the men were driving through Providence that night, seeking revenge for the death of Mann's younger brother, killed weeks earlier by a rival group. Pinkerton allegedly mistook Robinson for the person responsible and opened fire from the moving car. The attack was both deliberate and misplaced. Robinson was not affiliated with any gang, and Mia, who stood beside him, was struck fatally in the head. She was rushed to Rhode Island Hospital, where she was pronounced dead on arrival. Providence police launched a citywide investigation that lasted more than a year. Detectives recovered 9mm shell casings and a fragmented bullet from Mia's car. The evidence was sent to the state crime lab, but initial leads ran cold. Investigators combed surveillance footage from nearby businesses and collected data from cell towers to track possible suspects. The case remained open until a random traffic stop months later changed everything. On the 12th of December 2021, officers stopped a Hyundai Elantra and noticed a backpack being thrown from the passenger side window. Inside, police found a fully assembled ghost gun, a firearm without a serial number, often built from untraceable parts. Forensic experts entered the weapon into the National Integrated Ballistics Information Network. The ballistic signature matched shell casings from the Olney Street homicide. Swabs from the gun, its magazine, and the backpack later confirmed Pinkerton's DNA. That discovery became the foundation of the prosecution. Working with the Rhode Island Attorney General's office, detectives built a timeline linking Mann and Pinkerton to the crime. Phone data placed them near the shooting, and video evidence captured a car matching the suspect's vehicle fleeing the scene. By the 24th of August 2022, both men were secretly indicted on multiple charges, including murder, conspiracy, and use of a ghost gun. Their trials took place separately in Providence County Superior Court. Pinkerton was convicted in 2023 and sentenced on the 26th of January 2024 to double life in prison plus 50 years. Mann was convicted later, on the 30th of October 2024, and received the same punishment, with 10 years non-parolable. Both now serve their sentences at the adult correctional institutions. Mia's death drew statewide attention, described by officials as a senseless act of gun violence. Her parents established Mia's Voice, a scholarship fund supporting underrepresented students in speech and communication fields. 3 lessons endure: revenge blinds reason, bullets never know their target, and grief lasts longer than justice. Another Providence night, quiet, violent, and unforgettable. Number 3. Kelvin Maldonado. He brought a gun to a fistfight, and within seconds, 2 lives were gone, and a city was changed forever. In the early morning hours of the 20th of June 2021, at around 3:20 a.m., gunfire erupted near Cheshire and Salina Streets in Providence, Rhode Island. What began as a neighborhood party turned into a deadly confrontation that left 24-year-old Abdoulaye Diallo and 29-year-old Abbasim Bey lying mortally wounded. The shooter, later identified as 32-year-old Kelvin Maldonado, turned a moment of chaos into a tragedy that investigators would chase for nearly 2 years before finding justice. According to prosecutors, the violence began at a house party where Maldonado, Diallo, and Mbaye were among the attendees. Witnesses told investigators that the 2 victims had snuck into the event without paying an entry fee. When the party's host discovered it, they were asked to leave. Once outside, tensions escalated. A verbal argument quickly turned physical, and what started as a scuffle between several men on the street devolved into a fight involving up to 10 people. Detectives later reconstructed the events through witness statements and surveillance footage. As the fight spilled into the street, Maldonado was seen brandishing a firearm. Prosecutors said that instead of walking away, he chose to settle the dispute with deadly force. Shots rang out across the neighborhood. When officers arrived moments later, they found Diallo unresponsive on the pavement and Mbaye slumped in the passenger seat of a nearby Range Rover. Both were transported to Rhode Island Hospital, where doctors pronounced them dead. The Providence Police Department, working closely with the Rhode Island Attorney General's office, launched a full-scale investigation. Detectives collected shell casings and canvassed the area for witnesses. Over the next 2 years, the case grew cold, but investigators refused to close it. Gradually, through surveillance footage, eyewitness accounts, and cell phone location data, Maldonado emerged as the primary suspect. A witness confirmed seeing him with a firearm at the same location and time as the shooting. Cell tower records later placed his phone in the vicinity at the exact moment the shots were fired.
Your girl Rose is ready for action. Mind break! Sayonara. Gather round. Take everything!
With the Clearlight 4X lens technology, I see a larger spectrum of color.
More of a clear view, as it says.
It brightens your day. It's like turning the lights on in a dark room. It's really, really nice.
Armed with new evidence, a statewide grand jury indicted Maldonado in 2023. He pleaded not guilty and was held without bail pending trial. The proceedings took place before Superior Court Justice Kristen Rogers in Providence Superior Court. Over 12 days, prosecutors presented forensic analysis, cell data, and video evidence linking Maldonado directly to the murders. On the 29th of January 2025, the jury returned a unanimous verdict of guilty on all counts, including 2 counts of murder, multiple firearm offenses, and assault with a dangerous weapon. On the 29th of May 2025, Justice Rogers imposed 4 consecutive life sentences, ensuring Maldonado would spend the rest of his life behind bars. Families of the victims said the verdict brought peace, though no relief could match the weight of their loss. 3 lessons endure. Pride breeds violence, anger destroys reason, and justice may heal but never restore what's gone. Another case remembered, another truth written into America's crime ledger. Number 4. Antonio Reyes and Leonor Ufrey. In the quiet dawn of Providence, a single gunshot ended a celebration and revealed the dark after hours world. It was just before sunrise on the 12th of February 2023, when police were called to a home on Burnside Street in Providence, Rhode Island. The basement was crowded, music still echoing, bottles scattered on folding tables. It wasn't a private party. It was an unlicensed bar operating long after the city's nightlife had closed. Inside, 25-year-old Ivan Encarnacion lay motionless on the floor, fatally shot in the neck. According to investigators, the fatal encounter started moments before the shooting. Ivan and his brother, Runel, had been preparing to leave when a brief argument broke out with another guest, 26-year-old Antonio Reyes and Leonor Ufrey of Woonsocket, with ties to Orlando, Florida. Witnesses said Ivan threw a drink toward Ufrey, sparking the confrontation. In response, Ufrey pulled out a firearm and opened fire. 1 bullet struck Ivan, killing him instantly. Police later confirmed the weapon was likely a ghost gun, an untraceable firearm built from parts without a serial number. Officers arrived at the Burnside Street residence minutes after a 911 call reported shots fired at a house party. Inside, they found Encarnacion dead and a panicked crowd fleeing through side doors. Detectives quickly determined that the location was operating as an illegal bar, charging fees for entry and selling alcohol into the early morning hours. Major David Lapitin of the Providence Police Department later described the property as one of several unregulated nuisance houses known for late-night crowds and fights. The investigation moved swiftly. Witnesses at the scene identified Ufrey as the shooter, describing his clothing and the direction in which he ran. Within 15 minutes, patrol officers located and arrested him nearby. Detectives recovered physical evidence and began tracing his background. Ufrey, who had a prior criminal history in both Florida and Rhode Island, was booked on multiple charges, including murder, possession of a ghost gun, and discharging a firearm during a violent crime. The next day, the 13th of February 2023, Ufrey was arraigned in Providence District Court and ordered held without bail. By October, a grand jury had indicted him, and he entered a plea of not guilty in Superior Court. As of the last update, he remained in custody at the adult correctional institutions while awaiting trial. Officials emphasized that the tragedy underscored ongoing problems with underground venues and unregistered firearms in the city. The Encarnacion family called Ivan's death devastating and senseless. His sister said he had just helped her buy Valentine's Day gifts hours before the shooting. Family described him as loud, funny, and kind, a young man with no history of violence. The Providence Police Department and Attorney General's office vowed to strengthen enforcement against illegal clubs and ghost guns to prevent future deaths. 3 lessons remain. Untraceable weapons bring traceable grief. Underground venues hide legal danger. And one reckless act can end countless lives. Another night, another name in America's ledger of preventable crimes. Number 5. Quellen Page. A white coupe stopped under the streetlight, a car door opened, and within seconds, 6 shots shattered Providence's quiet night. On the 14th of May 2021, 25-year-old Tyreek Grundy sat in a parked Nissan Murano with a friend on Pope Street. It was a Friday evening that ended in calculated violence. Detectives would later learn that 31-year-old Quellen Page stepped out of his own car, a white, newer model Infiniti, walked directly toward the SUV, opened the rear passenger door, and fired 6 bullets into Grundy before fleeing. There was no warning, no chase, and no sign of self-defense. Grundy died at the scene. The investigation unfolded methodically, drawing on a combination of surveillance technology, forensic evidence, and digital data. Within hours, Providence police began canvassing the area, gathering footage from 18 separate properties surrounding Pope Street. In those recordings, detectives spotted a white Infiniti circling the block minutes before the shooting. It was a model linked to Quellen Page. 4 days later, on May 18, officers located and seized that same vehicle, along with Page's cell phone. A search warrant for the phone revealed GPS data, placing it at the scene at the precise time of the murder. Investigators also found searches related to the killing made in the days after Grundy's death. Forensic scientists from the Rhode Island Department of Health matched DNA collected from the Nissan's rear passenger door handle, the same door Page opened, to Page's genetic profile. Together, the evidence formed an airtight chain that placed him at the scene and behind the weapon. Page surrendered to police in September 2021 and was indicted later that month. He was initially held without bail, but after multiple hearings, Superior Court Judge Kristen Rogers granted him release on home confinement pending trial. The decision triggered public outrage. Prosecutors argued that the state had already met the legal burden to hold him, but the judge cited the presumption of innocence and ruled that bail's purpose was to ensure appearance at trial, not to punish before conviction. The case proceeded to trial in April 2023 before a jury in Providence Superior Court. Over 2 weeks, prosecutors presented video evidence, phone records, and DNA testimony. The defense offered no alternative suspect. On the 9th of May 2023, the jury found Quellen Page guilty of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit assault with a dangerous weapon, discharging a firearm during a crime of violence, and carrying a pistol without a license. On the 3rd of October 2023, Judge Rogers sentenced Page to 2 consecutive life terms, plus an additional 6-year consecutive sentence. He remains incarcerated at the adult correctional institutions. Officials called the punishment appropriate, while Grundy's family said the verdict brought justice but not peace. The controversy over Page's bail decision reshaped local debate around Rhode Island's bail standards but led to no formal legislative changes. 3 lessons endure. Freedom misused breeds tragedy. Justice delayed still arrives, and no court can restore what's gone. Another case closed, another name etched into America's record of senseless crime. Number 6. Shaheem Nathaniel and Ahari Cabrera. Under the fading light of Florence Street, anger turned to chaos, and one family's night spiraled into irreversible tragedy. On the 29th of August 2024, a Honda sedan stopped along a Providence neighborhood where a violent confrontation would erupt without warning. Inside the car sat a father and his 2 passengers, unaware that another vehicle nearby carried men armed and ready to retaliate. Within minutes, gunfire tore through the calm. The incident, which police later determined was rooted in a prior altercation, left one passenger mortally wounded and the entire city searching for answers. According to investigators, the confrontation began earlier that evening at a 7-Eleven convenience store. Nelson Pires allegedly exchanged words with 26-year-old Shaheem Nathaniel. Surveillance footage captured Pires leaving the store and following Nathaniel's car, which was later joined by 19-year-old Ahari Cabrera. The 2 vehicles eventually stopped on Florence Street, where tempers flared. Authorities stated that Pires pulled in behind the suspects and bumped their vehicle twice. Prosecutors alleged that he then accelerated forward, attempting to strike Nathaniel and Cabrera while others remained inside his own car. In response, the suspects exited their vehicle and opened fire. Multiple rounds were discharged, striking the Honda as it tried to escape. Video surveillance later showed both men continuing to fire while walking down the street as the Honda sped away. Police were flagged down moments later at 35 Florence Street, where the victims sought immediate help. The wounded passenger was transported to Hasbro Hospital in critical condition and succumbed to injuries several days later. The Providence Police Department immediately launched a full-scale investigation, using ballistic testing, video analysis, and license plate recognition systems to track down those responsible. Detectives moved quickly. The day after the shooting, Nathaniel and Cabrera were arrested. A search led to the recovery of 2 unregistered ghost guns, a 9mm and a .45 caliber handgun, both of which matched ballistic evidence collected at the crime scene. Investigators confirmed through forensic testing that the seized weapons had been used during the shooting. Both men were charged with multiple felony counts, including first-degree murder, conspiracy, and several firearm violations. During a 3-day bail hearing in Providence Superior Court, prosecutors described the attack as reckless and deliberate, arguing that Nathaniel and Cabrera sought revenge for an earlier dispute. Defense attorneys claimed the shooting was self-defense, alleging that Pires provoked the confrontation by using his car as a weapon. After reviewing the evidence, The judge denied bail, ruling that both defendants posed a significant danger to the community. Meanwhile, Nelson Pyers faced separate charges for reckless conduct and operating a vehicle with a suspended license. Prosecutors accused him of endangering others by escalating the confrontation instead of leaving the scene. City officials condemned the violence, calling it a preventable tragedy fueled by illegal firearms and street retaliation. Police vowed to intensify enforcement against ghost guns and unlicensed gatherings tied to violent crimes. 3 lessons remain. Anger can pull the trigger faster than reason, ghost guns erase accountability, and confrontation never restores pride. Another violent night, another loss Providence will never forget. Number 7. Nathan Cooper. The sound of a single gunshot broke the quiet of Parkus Avenue, a moment that would uncover one of Providence's most chilling crimes. On the 16th of March 2022, 40-year-old Sherbert Strawberry Maddox was killed inside an apartment on the city's west side. The shooter was her boyfriend, 53-year-old Nathan Cooper, a man with a long history of violence. Prosecutors later proved that Cooper fired the fatal shot, wrapped her body in layers of plastic and bedding, and hid her inside a refrigerator to conceal what he had done. According to investigators, the couple had been inside the apartment that night using drugs, including crack cocaine mixed with marijuana. Prosecutors stated that Cooper deliberately shot Maddox while she was in the shower. He later claimed the gun discharged accidentally after the court later rejected plausible. The medical examiner confirmed that Maddox died from a single gunshot wound to the chest. After the shooting, Cooper made no attempt to call 911 or seek help. Instead, he remained in the apartment for nearly a week, reportedly continuing to use drugs. During that time, he contacted a friend and requested plastic wrap. He then wrapped Maddox's body in multiple layers, removed the shelves from his refrigerator, and stuffed her inside. Detectives later noted that Cooper tied the refrigerator shut with a cord and left a handwritten note nearby reading, "I don't trust you."
Switch to TurboTax and file your own taxes free in the app if you didn't file with us last year. Just file with TurboTax Do-It-Yourself by February 28th. Download now.
Come on.
They're relying on us. We're relying on you. Please donate now.
On the 22nd of March 2022, Maddox's family, worried that she had vanished, flagged down a Providence police officer on Parkus Avenue. They reported that she had been killed and that her body was still inside the apartment. Officers obtained entry and immediately detected the smell of decomposition. Inside, they found Cooper and 2 firearms, a .38 caliber revolver believed to be the murder weapon, and a shotgun. The refrigerator had been moved to the bedroom and secured with a cord. When detectives opened it, they discovered Maddox's body exactly as described. The case was investigated by the Providence Police Department in coordination with the Rhode Island Attorney General's office. Prosecutors presented Cooper's criminal record, stretching back to 1989, which included drug trafficking, assault, and domestic abuse. Several witnesses described him as controlling and prone to violent jealousy, establishing a pattern of aggression that strengthened the murder case. In May 2023, following a 6-day trial in Providence County Superior Court, a jury found Nathan Cooper guilty of second-degree murder, discharging a firearm during the commission of a crime of violence resulting in death. On the 26th of September 2023, Justice Robert D. Krause sentenced Cooper to 2 consecutive life terms, with 2 additional 10-year terms to run concurrently. He remains incarcerated at the adult correctional institutions, serving what is effectively a life sentence without release. Maddox's family reacted with outrage during sentencing, calling the verdict justice but not peace. 3 lessons endure. Violence thrives in silence. Addiction fuels destruction. And justice always arrives, no matter how long it hides. Another dark chapter closed. Another life remembered in Providence. Number 8. Robert Comlin. It started as a night of noise and neon. Within minutes, it turned into another fatal chapter of Providence street violence. On the 1st of April 2022, 30-year-old Angelo Gomez was shot outside Wonderland Gentlemen's Club, a Providence strip club known for frequent disturbances. The shooter, 38-year-old Robert Comlin, a documented member of the East Side Street Gang, fired 3 rounds before fleeing the scene in a dark SUV. Surveillance footage later revealed how it unfolded. Comlin left the club after an argument, entered a black SUV, and drove 1 block away before turning back toward the entrance. As he returned, Several men affiliated with him approached Gomez near the curb. Gomez appeared to back away, hands raised, retreating toward the street. At that moment, Comlan stepped from the vehicle and opened fire. Gomez collapsed as the SUV sped off. He was rushed to the hospital in critical condition but died 1 week later. Detectives from the Providence Police Department immediately launched a homicide investigation. Surveillance cameras from multiple businesses confirmed the sequence of events and captured Comlan's image before and after the shooting. Investigators identified the vehicle and tracked Comlan's movements through phone records and witness statements. But by the time police moved to arrest him, his cell phone had been deactivated, and he had fled Rhode Island. A regional manhunt began. Working alongside the U.S. Marshal Service, the Southeast Regional Fugitive Task Force located Comlan in Atlanta, Georgia, on the 17th of June 2022. He was taken into custody without incident and extradited back to Rhode Island. At the time of his arrest, Comlan was already a convicted felon prohibited from owning firearms. The murder weapon, believed to be a semi-automatic pistol, was never recovered. The case proceeded to trial in Providence County Superior Court. Prosecutors presented extensive video surveillance, testimony from eyewitnesses, and evidence establishing Comlan's prior criminal record. The defense argued that the shooting was spontaneous and not premeditated, but jurors rejected that claim. After 8 days of testimony, on the 5th of April 2024, the jury found Robert Comlan guilty of first-degree murder, discharging a firearm during a crime of violence resulting in death, carrying a pistol without a license, and possession of a firearm by a prohibited person. He was also presented as a habitual offender due to multiple prior convictions. On the 30th of July 2024, Superior Court Justice Robert D. Krause imposed the sentence: 2 consecutive life terms plus 25 years, along with an additional 10 years for probation violation. Comlan, now 38, remains incarcerated at the adult correctional institutions, where he is expected to spend the rest of his life. Community reaction centered on frustration over gang-related shootings. Wonderland Gentlemen's Club temporarily closed after the incident, though it reopened days later. City officials reiterated their commitment to enforcing firearm laws and curbing violence in nightlife areas. 3 lessons remain. Guns escalate moments into tragedies, loyalty to gangs destroys futures, and justice always outlasts escape. Another night in Providence, 1 life ended. 1 life sentence forever. Each name in this series isn't just a headline, it's a reminder of how quickly human choices can turn from reason to ruin. And for every case closed,